Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight's stories include: I had a follow-up interview with MHA, the Honourable David Gilbert. We had the Minor Hockey Association Awards. Marco are back in town. Town Council report. So please stay tuned. I had an interview with MHA for our district, the Honourable David Gilbert, on Wednesday before he left to return to St. John's. Welcome back to our studio again this week, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, David. It's nice to be back all in the same week, and I'm glad that you invited me back. We've had a busy week so far. I guess the topic of conversation, I suppose, or the major concern of the people of Perthio is still the sea freeze plant. And to this point, Wednesday of this week, I haven't, things haven't moved with the same speed that I would have liked it to move. But I know that Mr. Crosby now has a copy of my letter. I have talked to Richard Cashin, the president of the union, and I told him that what I had done, and I gave him a copy of the letter that I sent to Mr. Crosby. I asked for his support, as I had in May of 1990 when the sea freeze deal was being put together by the federal government, and he assures me that he still feels that as strongly about it as he did then, and and generally he agrees with the approach that I'm taking, and realizes that the federal government and Mr. Crosby is the only one that can really start an inquiry into the whole sea freeze deal, and they will have to be the ones to do it, because it was made, as I said before, between the federal government and the then Minister of Fishery, Mr. Valcourt.
The Hockey Association presented awards to all the minor hockey players last Sunday.
We're going to present a trophy that was dedicated by the Sports Centre, the one Terry Croucher represents here in Burgeo. That's the most dedicated trophy you see here. Before we do that, there's a bunch of people we'd like to thank, and we'll never get them all in. That's going to be impossible, because we've had a lot of cooperation here in town this year, and we are going to present some appreciation certificates a little later on. I'll just name some of them, and as always, you're going to miss some. Because like I said, we've got cooperation from everybody we've asked for it from this year. The cooperation's been fantastic. I've never seen better cooperation anywhere, to tell the truth. Some of the certificates will be given out a little later on. We'll present one to the Lions Club for their cooperation right from the start. They gave us their blessings from the very first meeting we had with them, and it continued all through the winter. To Dave Gilbert, Todd Courtney, who accompanied us in all our tournaments in St. George's. They came in and done their filming. Good sports about it all. They took some of our players, some of our equipment. To our drivers, Sir MacDonald, Guyan, Pat Warren, Sean Cosser, Jim Tucker, Leonard Buckland, Todd Waters, John Reynolds, Ross Ann, and especially Gord Tucker, who loaned us our vehicle, loaned us his vehicle, even when he couldn't make the trips. So those people, plus there's a bunch of others, to Jim Marsden and the Boy Scouts who built our locker, to Barryfoot, who did a cooler box for us, Max Bank, who did some appreciation certificates, Kay Passer, who did some participation certificates, to the people that donated the jerseys, the coaches, the referees, and the parents, the hockey moms especially, and big thank you to the hockey moms. Very little could have been done without the hockey moms. And everybody else that I forgot, I think everybody right now should give them all a great big hand. And also the Lions Club, not only did they give us their cooperation all year, but they also wanted to do this little thing today to set out the tables and prepared you hot dogs, french fries, so they've been cooperating all the way through, and I want to thank them very much. Everybody keeps telling me to novice A already. Before we do that, the last thing, I think it's the last thing, no, it's not the last thing, matter of fact, but we have one other thing here that we'd like to present today, and as I was saying, this is a trophy for most dedicated player. And I have to tell you that when Terry approached me that he wanted to donate a trophy, and he said he think the best one was for the most dedicated, we didn't realize just how much of a difficulty it was going to be for your coaches. Because I had everything happen. There's some coaches simply put the names of the players in a bag and drew the names out because they did not want to choose who was the most dedicated player. I can only tell you, right from here in this rink all the way to St. George's, the players have been fantastic. They work hard, they do as they're told by the coaches, and you hear very little complaining. And also a good thing I noticed from our players is they do not retaliate like I've seen some of the other players in some of the other arenas do. If they get knocked down, they simply get back up. I've seen them come on the benches and complain to the coaches sometimes that they got hit. And I know some of the guys that coached the Bantams I coached in St. George's, that some of the St. George's players took a few runs at them, and we told our players to ignore it, just go do as you're doing, and they did it. And I can say nothing but good things about all of you. You're a hard-working bunch. And for getting the most dedicated player, I appreciate what the coaches went through. It was a very difficult thing to do. That the midget team, the coaches on the midget team had such a difficult time that the coaches ended up buying a trophy themselves. This is where you'll see two presented to the midget team. They could not make a decision. They wanted to give it to 15 or 16 players, and they finally got down to 2 or 3 or 4, and they eliminated, if I can use that word, everybody except 2, and they couldn't make a choice on those particular 2, so they decided to buy another trophy. But I'll start with a novice B. The most dedicated player, sure one way or the other, that was selected for novice B is Dwayne Dix. Terry, would you come out here, please? Hold on, Dwayne, please, for a second. I forgot to get Terry out here. The novice A most dedicated player is Joey Mersden. The Adams most dedicated player is Todd Young. The Pee Wee most dedicated player is Stephen Symes. Bantam most dedicated player is Jamie Randall. The midgets, and I'll announce both at the same time, is Jake Rimmel and Trevor Ricketts.
I contacted Seafreeze manager George Coley this past week to try and set up an interview regarding the shutdown of the Burgeo plant, but he has no comment at this time regarding this matter. I also contacted Union Representative Ron Cooper. He informed me that he has meetings next week and will hopefully be in for an interview after the meetings. Representatives from Marco, the company constructing the new healthcare facility for Burgeo, are back in town. We took our camera to the site of the new healthcare facility to see if any work has resumed. I was informed by an employee at the site that work on site preparations should resume on Monday. Work on the actual structure should be following shortly.
Good evening. Burgeo Town Council report. The Burgeo Fish Plant is scheduled to close on April the 24th. This is not acceptable to Council and will lobby strongly against any closure at this time. Council has requested a meeting with officials of Seafreeze as soon as possible. Council has also sent a letter to the Honorable John Crosby requesting a meeting to discuss the Burgeo plant and why Burgeo is not getting any frozen at sea fish or extra wet fish from Council. Council feels there is enough fish in the Seafreeze deal to supply Burgeo and Council for a period of 8 months. Council have also formed an action committee to deal with this problem. Council applied for funding in the amount of $1,272,000 to pave the Burgeo roads with proper drainage and completion of sidewalks. Council received 1/3 of the funding they applied for, which was in the amount of $400,000. Council has to repay to the provincial government 40% of the $400,000, which is $160,000. Council also applied for funding to upgrade the water intake system to the town's water reservoir in the amount of $131,000. Council was successful in receiving this funding. Council has to repay to the provincial government 40% of the $131,000, which is a total of $52,000. Council applied for funding again this year to extend the water system in the Mrs. Ed area. However, Council was unsuccessful in achieving any funding for this particular project. And I would like to elaborate on this one. This is 3 years in a row we have applied for funding for this particular project and has been turned down each year. But I want to say to the residents of Mrs. Ed, there is no way the Council can take funding that is allocated for the Long Pond area or the paving of the Burgeo Road and put it into the Mrs. Ed water supply. Whatever funding is allocated for, that's what it must be spent on, and Council cannot change that without the approval from the Department of Municipal Affairs. Council will be completing the town's incinerator this year. This project was also a 60-40 cost share. The total amount for this year's project was $140,000. Council has to pay back 40%, which is $56,000. Paving of the Burgeo Highway and the paving around town will be going to tender in a week or so. Roads around town that will be paved this year are Reach Road, Centennial Street, Main Street, Inspiration Road, and Missers Road towards the park entrance. Building Committee reports. A letter was received from an individual to set up in a 3-room apartment in the building known as Central Stores. A letter was also received from an individual to set up a lounge in the Burgeo area. A request from an individual in the Reach area to build a shed 12 by 16. His request was approved. A request from an individual in the Beach area to construct a 6 by 8 porch to prison dwelling. His request was approved. A request from an individual in the Mrs. area to construct a 12 by 14 shed. His request was approved. A request from an individual in the Mrs. area to extend his prison dwelling 12 by 24. His request was approved. A request from an individual from Mrs. area to construct a dwelling house 28 by 36. His request was approved. A request from an individual of Muddy-O to construct a 10 by 12 porch to prison dwelling. His request was approved. A request from an individual in Muddy-O area to construct a fishing shed 12 by 12. His request was approved. A request from an individual to construct a shed 9 by 10. His request was approved. Correspondence. A letter was received from the town of Marystown inviting all mayors of deep sea fishing ports to form an alliance to deal with the problems in the fishing industry. Council agreed to participate in this alliance. The first meeting will be held in St. John's on April the 25th. A letter was received from the Long Range Futures Committee inviting council to participate in a regional development roundtable meeting in the Stephenville area. A letter was received from the Department of Environment and Lands regarding development within the 1.6 buffer zone around the waste disposal site. A request was received from the trawler fishermen for funds to help offset the cost of the grocery bill for the Cape Nova who took part in a demonstration on the nose and tail at Grand Banks. Council agreed to donate the amount of $100. A letter was received from the St. John Central High School requesting that the town purchase a plaque with a number of nameplates attached that will be used each year to engrave the name of the student achieving the highest performance in one of the grades from grade 7 to grade 12. Council agreed to donate a plaque that will be suitable for such an occasion. Copy of a letter sent to the Honorable John Crosby from the MHA Dave Gilbert regarding the inshore fishery was read. A letter was received from an individual regarding water line in the Mr. area. A letter was received from an individual from the trailer park concerning salt water rising around his trailer. But that's it for your council report. Now I have a report on the funds that was collected for the Cape Nova on her trip to the nose and tail of the Grand Banks to protest the foreign overfishing. The groceries was purchased at Midtown. Midtown deducted from the total amount of the groceries $200. This left the grocery bill $1,822.40. Also attached to this bill was bond stores in the amount of $363. The total bill came to $2,185.40. The total amount of collections were $1,991.30. The plant workers agreed to pay any additional costs that was left. So the plant workers paid out of their sick fund $194.10 towards the grocery bill. So the grocery bill is paid in full. And I want to read out the names of the people who donated. Anderson's Trucking, $10. Scotiabank, $25. Burgeo Food Center, $100. Burgeo Pharmacy, $50. Cougar's Construction, $10. Louise's Takeout, $10. Ann's Pro Hardware, $100. Air Enterprises, $400. Island Store, $30. Caffey's Cuts and Curls, $10. Les Chateau, $25. Muddy Old Convenient, $20. Perry's Taxi, $15. Refs Limited, $20. Seaview Lounge, $25. Seaside Mini Mart, Edward Vaughan Sons, $40. Spencer's Store, $25. Strickland's Variety, $25. Tucker's Transport, $25. Variety Quick Shop, $200. G&S Bonded Warehouse, $50. Virgil Lioness, $100. Ground Search and Rescue, $25. United Church Women, $50. LOBA, $100. And the Virgil Town Council, $100. Inspiration Road Grocery Limited, $15. Mr. E. Gillette donated 1 case of milk. Mr. and Mrs. Calvinier, $10. Mr. Frank Youngs, $5. Mr. Ron Cooper, $5. Mr. Garland Youngs, $5. Mr. Bruce Green, $4. Mr. Stanley Strickland, $5. Mr. Frank Strickland, $5. Mr. Glenn Ann, $6. Mr. Lewis Ann, $4. The crew of the Cape Morrow, $75. Mr. and Mrs. Jerome MacDonald, $10. Mr. Leo Roach, $5. Mr. Bill Parson, $5. Mr. Gus Melbourne, $5. Mr. Stanley Krant, $5. Mr. John W. Coley, $5. Mr. George Coley, $5. Mr. Carl Burns, $5. Mr. Clayton Ingram, $2. Mr. Samuel Pink, $5. Mr. George Morse, $2. Mr. Bruce Thatcher, $2. Mr. Cecil Berger, $2. Mr. Stanley Anderson, $2.50. Mr. Kelvin Person, $5. Mrs. Ann Brown, $5. Mr. Norman Strickland, $5. Mr. Cyril Skinner, $2. Mr. Bill Donovan, $5. Mr. Albert Billard, $5. Mr. Bert Murdoch Benoit, $2. Mr. Benjamin Green, $4. Mrs. Betty Devon, $5. Mrs. Audrey Benoit, $2.50. Mr. Walford Dunford, $5. Mr. Bud Green, $5. Mr. Leslie Iscock, $5. Mrs. Joyce Strickland, and I gotta laugh when I see that one, Joyce. Mr. George Ball, $5. Mr. Ed Batcher, $2.30. Mrs. Linda Benoit, $2. And Mr. Kenny Eric, $2. There were also some donations from outside of town. Trump Supplies, $50. K&J Electrical, $50. Western Hydraulics, $30. And also Altamar Canada donated $1,000 worth of fuel for the Cape Nova. That is the complete list of donations. So on behalf of Mr. Frank Strickland, Captain and crew of the Cape Nova, I would like to thank you all very much for your donation. It was greatly appreciated, and it certainly was for a good cause. So on behalf of those gentlemen, good night, and may God bless.
Community events. There was no TV bingo last week because last week was Holy Week. However, the LOL will be having TV bingo on Wednesday. Cards are $1 each or 6 for $5. Please support the LOL by playing TV bingo. Canada Employment Outreach Office needs to compile a list of skilled workers within our community who are interested in working at the construction of the healthcare unit. Specifically, we need a list of plumbers, electricians, sheet metal workers, rebar workers, etc. If you have the experience and feel your experience may be required in the construction of the healthcare unit, we suggest you drop off a resume to our office stating your experience, etc. That's signed Jerry Bellard, Outreach Manager. Canada Employment Outreach is advising all clients that the Outreach Office will be closed from April 20th to April 24th, 1992. The purpose of the closure is to computerize the office. The staff will be setting up the computer and receiving training. The Girl Guide Cookie Day will be held on April 22nd. All Pathfinders, Girl Guides, Brownies, and Sparks are asked to meet at the United Church Hall on Wednesday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. All girls should wear their ties or badge scarves. No other uniform is necessary. Any parent who is able to come along with the girls will be very welcome. Cookies are $2 per box. Notice to fisher persons. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans wishes to advise that in the Newfoundland region, the lobster fishing season in fishing areas 6 to 11, Cape Bonavista to Sink Surf, opens at 0600 hours on Monday, April 20th, 1992. And the fishery in areas 3, 4, and 5, Cape St. Charles to Cape Bonavista, opens at 0600 hours on Monday, May 4th, 1992. Fisher persons are reminded that the lobster traps may not be set before these times. Due to the Canadian Employment Outreach Office being closed from April 20th to 24th for computer training, the workers have decided to volunteer their time on Tuesday and Thursday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. for anyone who requires completion of UI forms, etc. No appointments will be required. If you need our service, we will be open from 7 to 9 p.m. We'll help you on a first-come, first-served basis. Signed, Jerry Bellard, Outreach Manager. There will be a BBS volunteer meeting on Tuesday at 3 p.m. instead of 6:30 p.m. This is a very important meeting, and all volunteers are asked to make a special effort to attend. Well, that's it for this week. Please stay tuned for a tape of Gord Drake. This is the second part of a tape that we aired a few weeks back. On behalf of BBS and BBS volunteers, I'm Dave Cooper. Hope the Easter Bunny was good to you. Have a great week. See you next week. Good night and happy Easter.
I was a master,